Hi, Maike.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to this first Ladies That UX Utrecht video bite, as I call it for
Yes,
now.
thank you.
Hi. I asked you to if I could interview you because you are one of the speakers of Grow the Mindset this June 14th in Utrecht. Uh, a larger meetup than normal, a little party for anniversary. And I would like to ask you some questions, but first, would you like to introduce yourself, who you are?
Yes, my name is Maike Klip, and I work as a user researcher for the Dutch government. I work at DUO, the department. It's part of the Department of Education, and I've been working there for over 5 years now, I guess. Um, and yeah, besides my work, I'm a photographer, and I started studying again last fall. Where I'm at art school, where I'm combining photography and user research to make something. Well, I don't know yet because it's still a search project. But I'm combining these two things to see if I can come up with new research methods.
Okay.
Yeah, so I live in Groningen. Yeah, I think that's about it.
And you work at DUO. Would you please
Yes.
tell something about that? Because translating that in Dutch or in English, it's quite something, I think.
Yes, it's always when I'm trying to translate it in English, I'm breaking my mouth. But DUO is the organization for student financing in the Netherlands. So a lot of students know us about the student financing and, of course, student debt in the end. But we also do a lot of exams in the Netherlands. We have funding for refugees, and we organize the fundings for schools. So we do also a lot of administrational services. So that's quite a big user group. Almost everyone in the Netherlands has something to do with us. So most of the times when I'm doing research, I'm visiting schools, both to talk to students, but also to people working at schools doing administration, stuff like that.
Okay.
And at DUO, I'm part of the UX team. We have, I think, about 25 team members. So that's quite a big team, I guess, especially government. And well, as I'm working as a user researcher, I have 4 other user researcher colleagues, and the rest of them are designers, content designers. We have a couple of front-end developers, and we have 2 data analysts.
Analytical persons. Okay. Your talk at Grow the Mindset is researching empathy and being vulnerable as a designer. Talk about that. I'm quite intrigued with what's it about?
Yes, well, researching empathy is when I started art school last fall. I wanted to bring a research question from my own work to school, and I started out with a question which I think is the main question for my work. It's the question I had was, how can, as a digital government, how can we have an empathic relationship with our users? How can we be there for students, and what does that mean? You know, to be what does empathy mean for students in our case? But when I developed this question and I started doing some research and talking to participants, I understood that I wanted more to research not what students were expecting of us, but how my colleagues were going about this subject. So my research in question started shifting and became more about what does empathy actually mean in an organization, and how can we make it tangible? How can we apply it? And what does it mean for the way our organizations are organized, how we make decisions, So all of a sudden, I wasn't actually researching our connection to users anymore. I was researching ourselves. That makes sense. So it became much more of a sort of a reflection research to myself, to my team members, but actually to my whole organization about who are we making the decisions for users, who are we talking to users, and what does it mean to be, I call it in Dutch, de begripvolle ambtenaar, and it means something like the empathic civil servant or something. Who is that, and why should you be one? So that's a bit about my quest for empathy, I guess.
Okay, it sounds actually great because, as civil servants, there are lots, and user researchers, there aren't many of them, of course, and you really want to establish, this empathy for civilians. And well, how do you do that? Because everyone has to get involved, getting empathy or sympathy even. So
well, it's funny you say that, because when I started doing this research, I myself am quite an emotional person. So I started out with my own bias. Everyone should have max empathy, because otherwise, why are we here? And when I started doing these interventions with colleagues and these iterations, I noticed my own bias started shifting, because should we all have as much empathy as we can? I started reading some books about the bad sides of empathy, because I noticed that the stories I told about students and the students I invited, we tend to have empathy for people we understand and like, and people we don't know or don't understand, we tend not so much to have empathy for them, And so empathy based on feelings, my own bias is starting to shift, like maybe we shouldn't be having so much empathy. So there's more to it than just how can we organize it so that everyone can have a lot of empathy. Maybe it doesn't make better decisions. So I'm still working. I'm still working with this, and still trying to find maybe something like the sweet spot for empathy. Not too much, not too little. But it's funny to see how your own bias can change doing such a research project.
Okay, the sweet spot for empathy.
That sounds a bit.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But okay.
No, I think it's I think it's quite intriguing. So, what do you want people, the visitors of the Growth Mindset conference? What do you want them to take away from your talk?
I think I would like them to start asking themselves questions, because I'm not gonna have answers in the talk. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions, but I noticed that when you ask questions to others, but also to yourself, you start thinking, you start reflecting. So I would love for people to start reflecting on their own empathy and the way they think about it, the way they feel it, the way they use it. And there's not a good or wrong, or there's not a way you maybe there can be, but there's not like this defined definition about how you should be empathic. But I would like people start reflecting more and a bit more deeper, so that we can have a full conversation about how you can let me see, how do I want to say it? This a colleague of mine sent me this cartoon a couple of weeks ago about two people, two creatures more. They were sitting on a bench, and they're both collectors. So one says to the other, so what are you collecting? And this guy says, well, I'm collecting questions. Oh, the other one said, I'm collecting answers. What a coincidence. And then the other creature says, answers. What can you do with answers? And then they go on into this whole philosophical conversation about why questions are better than answers. I can send you the link. And I really like this cartoon because questions always lead you further and always keep you wondering and reflecting. But answers, that's just a finished conversation, you know. Mm-hmm. So I would love for people when they leave my talk to start asking themselves questions about empathy, about the way they make decisions, the way they do things.
Well, wow, I think it's really great. You're asking them to reflect on their own work, on who they are, perhaps also in their life, even if you look at it. It's about conversations. It's about consciousness, also about this thing, and keep being in dialogue with people around you, and especially with user subjects. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time now, and we're very happy you're one of the speakers, and we see you on the 14th.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.